always wanted.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live this cold, wet, rainy, was it Tuesday day? Yes, Tuesday morning here in the Midlands of England. Guys, we've got a few things to discuss, talk about here on the channel this morning. A few issues that we need to go over. Has there been a bit of an overreaction to the performance on Sunday? Has there been a bit of too much of a negative spin put on it, or is the criticism that the team and the manager have come in for quite justified? Does Sunday also show a paucity of midfield options? Does it show a real lack of talent there in the midfield? I think there's issues around that we're going to talk about in the podcast as well. I also want to talk about Philippe Clement's post-match presser, which was ultimately very, very bizarre indeed. I've watched it once. I watched it post-match on Sunday, and then I kind of just forgot about it and left it. And then was looking through social media last night whilst I was out walking the dog, and kind of read some interesting bits and pieces from fans with different takes on the whole presser and what they saw, what they read, what they found, what they heard. And I kind of thought, yeah, there's some interesting bits in that. I'll go back and watch it. I'll go back and have a look and kind of try and just figure out a little bit what's going on with this whole presser. And I'll be honest with you, I watched it and I kind of thought, yeah, these people have got a bit of a point. There was a bit of a moan, a bit of a whinge to Clement, I think, and at times a little bit of an unjustified moan and whinge to Clement as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that, in what Clement said and what Clement kind of how he acted in that presser. And I think to some degree he's got to start to be a little bit more careful with the way he says, how he acts, and how he comes across to the media and to fans. I think he's making himself look a bit of a parody at times with what he comes out with and the way he acts and what he says. And I think for me, he does need to think a little bit more before he speaks. He's in danger of becoming a B-Tech Beale, which, let's face it, no one wants to be a B-Tech Beale. I mean, no one wants to be an A-Tech Beale, let's face it. But a B-Tech Beale is certainly something that you would not want to be. Let's have a look what else we've got. Geordie says he says here, I think Sunday just shows us how much we rely on Dio in midfield. I think you're very much right there, Geordie, with your comment there. Alice Blue says, Big Phil stands up for his players. I mean, I think he does to some extent, but I think sometimes it is very misplaced with how he stands up for his players indeed. Morning, Stephen. How are you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. This horrible morning here. It's not a great morning here in the Midlands of England. Not great at all. Look, Let's talk about the midfield problems first. That's what I wanted to sort of bring up a little bit. Jordy makes the point there, and I think he makes a very, very good point indeed as regards the whole situation around, obviously Mohamed Diomande was missing for that game on Sunday, and the suggestion is that Dio will be back. Will be back on Thursday and back available for selection on Thursday. And that's positive. That's good news. It really is good news that Dio will be back. I thought Dio had a very good game in Malmo on Thursday night. And I think, I'll be honest with you guys, I think Dio comes in for a lot of unnecessary stick from the fans. I think there's a little group within the fan base that get on his back no matter what. And I think it's really unfair. I really do. William Baldwin de Arecieta Jr. says, I genuinely think he struggles with English sometimes. Maybe. I mean, let's face it, you've got to kind of, I suppose, consider that. When English is your second language, when no doubt he probably thinks in French or Belgian or Flemish or whatever his first language is, and then tries to translate into English and then speaks in English. You probably do have that element, don't you, of kind of misunderstanding at times. And we all know that literal translations from one language to another are never 100% clear. So yeah, I suppose there was always that situation, isn't there? And Brian Smith, I think, let's launch into this bit a little bit here. And Brian, I think this is a good point with which to launch into this discussion. Don't want to overreact, but Dow being in central midfield second half on Sunday, no wonder we lost control of the latter part of that game. I've got to agree with you there. I mean, even the manager himself said first half we were good. First half we did well, and I agree with that to some extent. First half I think we did control the game. We were the better team. Yeah, we didn't create a great deal of chances, and we didn't take any chances apart from that one wonder strike from Tom Lawrence. But I'll be honest with you, I think you're right. The second half, Big Phil makes those two changes at half time, and I personally believe that he got the changes wrong. I don't agree with the changes that he made. I think taking off McCausland was wrong. I think he should have put McCausland on the right. He should have hooked Czerny. I thought Václav Czerny was absolutely fucking awful. It was absolutely dreadful on Sunday. I thought he was absolutely useless on Sunday. He was about as much use as a pair of windscreen wipers on a submarine. I really do think he was about that much use. But yeah, Dow came on in place of Raskan. Now, I kind of get why he took Raskan off. I think, rewatching the game, rewatching the first half, you kind of see a similarity, I think, in the play of Raskan and the play of Barron. They are very similar in how they play. They do seem to play a very similar way. They both seem to drop back in from the back four. They both seem to drop into that sort of defensive midfield slot. They take up similar positions. They use the ball in similar ways. So I do think there's an element there of they're too similar to play together, and that maybe that the only way you can use Raskan is next to Dio, and the only way you can use Barron is next to Dio, which of course then asks the question: where is the replacement for Dio? Is there someone who can come in and be that replacement for Dio? Dio is a naturally left-footed central midfield player. Kieran Dowell is a naturally left-footed central midfield player, but Kieran Dowell was poor on Sunday. Kieran Dowell has been poor every time he's come on. He's the one player you look at and you kind of say, what does he actually bring to this team? What is the point of Kieran Dowell? Can you tell me what Kieran Dowell's point is in this team? He's not quick enough to play wide. His passing isn't amazing. His shots aren't great. He hasn't, his assists, he doesn't really get any. He's not a tough tackler. What is Kieran Dowell's purpose in this squad? And I think it kind of, for me, puts into question a couple of things. I mean, one, like I said, is yes, as Geordie said earlier in the chat, we did miss Dio. I think we did miss Dio. And I think all those anti-Dio people within the fan base, they were kind of showing up a little bit for what they are. They're talking a whole load of crap because Dio is very much, I think, central to what we do and how we play. He's kind of the metronomic sort of midfield leader, isn't he? He's the guy who directs the operation. He's the guy who uses the ball sensibly. He's the guy who works the ball. He's the guy who kind of, makes the midfield tick. He provides the link between the defense and the attack. He's the bridge, isn't he? And not having him on Sunday, I think, did hurt. And I think the natural thing was that Raskan and Barron, if you watch the game back, drop very deep because that's what Raskan and Barron naturally do. And the issue there is then you have a big gap that emerges between the defence and the midfield or the attacking midfielders. And Clement, I think, tried to put that right with the substitution. That's why he made it. But for me, you've got to kind of look at, did he bring the right player on? And do we have the right players to kind of come in and actually do that job for Dio when Dio's not available, when Dio's not fit? Do we have the players that can come in and be that replacement for Dio? I mean, people talk about, obviously, Dujon Sterling was on the bench, but the thing there is that Dujon is more of a central defensive midfielder. He is he's a player who is naturally more of a destroyer. He's more defensively minded. That's why he's in the team. And I think putting him there would have not really solved that issue either. Cole McKinnon, I think, would have been an option. Possibly. Gregor, great to have you back. Great to see you. Haven't heard from you in a long time, Gregor. How you doing, buddy? Great to hear from you. Gregor says, best I can say is we were lucky, got 3 points. We were awful, poor subs, poor selection, poor tactics. Gregor, I can't disagree with any of that, buddy. Genuinely can't disagree with any of that. I think we are lacking in that central midfield role. When Dio is not fit, who do we put in there? And how are they being used as well? I think, that's another. Was the similarity in play between Raskan and Barron also down to the manager's tactics? Did he not give clear direction? Now, you look at how Raskan plays for the Belgian under-21s, and he plays as an 8. He plays as a more attacking-minded midfielder. He gets on and links. He goes beyond that 3 and links with the forward. He goes beyond the front line. He does attack more. We didn't see that on Sunday. So I do think there's an element of both of them dropping very deep to receive the ball and very deep to cover. And whilst that obviously makes us defensively very sturdy, the fact that we're playing Hibs, who are not a great team at home, it doesn't really do us any favours, does it? So I do worry about that aspect. That I do think that that we don't have that natural Raskan replacement, Diomande replacement, and it is concerning. It is a worry going forward. The squad depth is not necessarily there. Should we have an outbreak of injuries again? I mean, the hope obviously is that Dio will be back on Thursday. I mean, like I said, I like Mohamed Diomande. I think he's a very good footballer. I think he's a very intelligent footballer. I mean, you've only got to look at, if you actually sit and you watch Diomande, and you actually look at what Diomande does in a game. And I think this is where some of the fans kind of get lost with the whole Diomande situation. You watch him, and if you watch him, he's a player who he directs the operations, isn't he? He points where the ball, he shows people where to run. He asks them to move places. He asks, he kind of tries to be a director, a conductor, as well as obviously worrying about his own game. And I think that was very much missing on Sunday. Like I said, I don't know, Raskin maybe could do that, but was it how Raskin was asked to play? I also think that, and people are going to hate me for this comment, I also think that James Tavernier was partly to blame for it as well. If you watch, there was a number of times in the first half where both Barron and Raskan are dropping back into the right back slot because Tav's gone missing again. You watch. There was an incident. I noticed a real point in the first half where Raskan is in the right back slot. Raskan is playing right back because James Tavernier is, God knows where James Tavernier is, going off doing James Tavernier's, James Tavernier things. So I think as well, the midfield was affected by the fact that it's got to constantly cover for the fact that James Tavernier can't do his job anymore. And like I said, go back and watch the first half and watch the number of times you can see Connor Barron or Nicholas Raskan playing right back, which is not their job. And what that does automatically is it kind of takes from the midfield. It kind of takes from the attacking impetus of the team. It's almost like we're structuring a team just so we can crowbar one player into the team. This kind of fallen idol kind of player that people and the fanboys and the manager seem to want to be back at his best, but it ain't going to happen, guys. Ain't going to happen. Stephen Moorhead says, what do you think of the defence on Sunday? I thought 3/4 of it were okay, Stephen. I thought that Propper and Suter were decent. I thought that Propper and Suter are looking like a real defensive pairing there. I do think, Stephen, however, that John Suter was disadvantaged because he was constantly pulled out of position. He was constantly having to go to play right back. If you notice the number of times when they come down the left-hand side of the defence, who is it that's going over to cover? Who is it that's going over to make the tackle? Who is it that's going over to put pressure on the left winger of Hibs? It's John Suter. Well, the issue there is the moment Suter comes out of the middle, it leaves a gap. So therefore, you're finding that Barron or Raskan or Dowell or whoever's playing in central midfield has then got to drop back in to make that centre half. So you've therefore got a situation where the team is being, should we win the ball back, the midfield link is too far back because they're covering for a centre half that's had to be pulled out of position because the right back can't defend anymore. So I think the defence looked decent. I thought the defence have done well. Jack Butland obviously pulls off that penalty save as well. Big Jack saves the day. And I think the defence is looking better. I do, however, think that the weak link is still James Tavernier there. He is a huge weak link. And I think what makes zero sense for me, Stephen, is that we've got Casanwejo, we've got Sterling. I mean, Big Cass looks a player. He looks a good player. Thursday night, he played left back in not his natural position against Malmo. Looked good. He came on, didn't make any mistakes against Hibs on Sunday. I'd personally be putting Big Cass in at right back. I mean, I really genuinely would. I mean, I honestly believe that, going in towards the end of the season and going, I think, for the rest of the season. And I think the manager needs to grow a pair of bollocks here. He really does need to grow a pair of balls and actually sit and look at these performances and say, look, James Tavernier, thank you for everything. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you've done for the club, but you're not up to it anymore. You genuinely are letting this team down, and you're actually stopping this team from playing because we're having to cover for you all the time. I would go with this back four for the rest of the season. That's my back four for the rest of the season. It really is. Ian Van Dahl, who's a gobshite? Casemiro, Suter, Proper, and Hjefte. That would be my back four for the rest of the season. I would go with that. I think that would give us a lot of solidity, a lot more stability, and a lot more solidity to the team. Morning, Andy. How you doing, buddy? Geordie says here in the thing, seeing Suter scream at Tav about his defending tells you a lot. Clement is out of his depth, says Andy McLean. Yeah. Oh, Ian, why am I a gobshite? Come on, then, Ian. Why am I a gobshite? You tell me why I'm a gobshite, mate. Come on, mate. You tell me, because I'd love to know your theory on this, mate, because you really are just generally looking some bullshit, same bullshit. What's the same bullshit? Oh, is it because you're... I know why. Ian, is it because you're typing this one-handed while you toss yourself off over James Tavernier with your other hand, looking at your laminated picture of James Tavernier, you fucking moron? Right, anyway, guys, let's have a look. I do think that we do need that. That for me would be a much more solid back four for me. Casemiro, Suter, Proper, and Hjefte. I think that would give us a real solidity there. Really, genuinely would. Really would absolutely give us this real solidity to the midfield, to the defence. But going back to the midfield for me, which is what I really wanted to talk about. I think for me, you look at the midfield options. Oh, Ian, you are a prick. Right. Yeah, you keep wanking yourself off over James Tavernier, mate. You do that. Anyway, I think midfield-wise, I think, look, whilst Dio is the best option. Dio alongside Barron is the best option. He's the best player. He's the best player to come in and actually do that job. It really is. Joy says, shouldn't most of the blame be on Tav? Surely he can see and feel that he's losing a yard or two and holding the team. But I agree, mate. I agree with you 100%. Ian Van Dahl, who is James Tavernier's gay lover, obviously doesn't agree with that. McKinnon and Rice. I think that that he is definitely again. Why are we not using these young players? I mean, I made a point on X to this morning. I think it was. If you're Bailey Rice and you're sitting there and you're thinking, what have I got to do to get a chance in this first team? What have I got to do to actually play, in this first team? Why am I not getting a chance? Why does, Kieran Dowell, who doesn't really contribute a lot to the team, get that start ahead of me? I mean, one of the ones that really, really think, makes me think that, this line that Clement comes out with about, I'm going to give youth a chance. I really am going to give youth a chance. But we're not seeing it. We're not really seeing this demonstrated. That the youth is getting an opportunity. Why is Bailey Rice and Cole McKinnon not getting opportunities to play? Why are they not getting put out there on the pitch? Let's take the Ross County game, for example, right? Bailey Rice was on the bench against Ross County. Now, as far Bailey Rice, when he played, he has played first team football, and said, he did well against Livingston, and Livingston aren't a great team. Yeah, I get that. I 100% get that. But what I would say is, when you're 3-4-0 up against Ross County, and what I hear a lot from the fans is, we can't give youth a chance because we're never really 3-4-0 up in games, so there's not a chance, to actually do that. So we actually are 3-4 up against Ross County, and he's got Bailey Rice on the bench, he's got Cole McKinnon on the bench. Why does he bring on Kieran Dowell? Why doesn't he bring on Bailey Rice in that situation? Why doesn't he bring on Cole McKinnon in that situation? Would Dowell do any better than Rice or McKinnon? Would Rice and McKinnon be any worse than Dowell? I would say not. I'd say that Rice and McKinnon would probably play just as well, if not probably better than Kieran Dowell, and offer a little bit more. And, how are we ever going to see, how are we ever going to see if these young players are actually worth it, actually, have a future in this club, if we don't actually see them play? How do we know that Bailey Rice, is good enough if we're not going to see him actually get an opportunity to get on that field? How do we know if Cole McKinnon is going to be good enough if we don't see him on that pitch? There's other players obviously coming through, and I think, the whole issue with the Robbie Fraser not playing on Thursday night, you look at it and young players must be sitting here thinking, is Rangers the club for me? Because I ain't going to get a chance to play. I'm not getting a chance to get into the first team. Ross McCausland, yes, does, but he's the only one. Zach Lovelace, another one. Why is Zach Lovelace not getting a chance, when we're struggling or when we're 2-3-0 up and he's on the bench? I don't get that, It's a difficult one for me. And like I said, because midfield for me has a lack of options there, has a real lack of options in that missing. It really does. I would say that, that is something we do need to address. Ian Van Dahl is now banned from the channel because apparently Ian Van Dahl is a Celtic fan. I'd accept it if Tav came out and said during a press interview, I feel in myself that I've lost a yard or two, but I'm willing to give everything for the team. At least he's owning up to it. Yeah, but he ain't going to, mate. He's going to come out and spout the same crap, isn't he? I'm disappointed. We'll learn. James Fulton said, we need an out-and-out striker, never mind midfield, as we were awful in front of goal. I mean, yes, there was the miss from Dessers. It was a worldie from Bursic. And the other one is that Dessers really should have done better than that. Andy McLean says here in the live chat, we need a settled team and a style of play. I mean, I've kind of talked a bit about this in the video the other day. Style of play, I think there's an awful lot talked about with style of play these days. There's an awful lot mentioned as regards, as a style of play. We don't have a style of play. We don't have a fluidity to our play. We don't have a, I think if I said to you, what is Philippe Clement's style of play? I think you'd struggle. I think you'd struggle to give me one, a style of play, that is. I look at it and I kind of think, yeah, it's not really there at the moment. And what kind of is frustrating is if you look at, you look at Hibs on Sunday, and look, I'm not saying that I want us to play like Hibs, but their manager had given them a style of play. He's given them a shape. He's given them a formation. He's given them a style that clearly works. He's given them a way of playing that clearly works. He's given them a kind of style of play, a formation, a set of tactics, a shape. You look at Aberdeen and, you can come back with, well, Aberdeen haven't played anybody. Well, we've only played Celtic. That's the only game we really played. It was tough and we lost it. So I think, before we kind of level at Aberdeen, they haven't played anyone. Let's kind of get our own house in order there. But you look at Aberdeen and they've got a style of play. They've got a vision. They've got a way of playing, and it's effective and well so far. So tell me this: how can, I think it's Gray, is it, the guy who's the Hibs coach, and Thielen, who's the Aberdeen coach? How is it they can come in and after only 6, 8, 10 games can put a style of play into place and get a team playing in a certain way? Yet Clement, who had obviously the pre-season, he's had some of last season to work with some of these players, and he's had all of this season, can't put it in place. It is worrying. It is worrying and concerning. And, when he was sitting there and saying, oh, we'll see the best of Rangers in October, November, I don't get it. I don't get how, like I said, the season starts in August. It doesn't start in October. The season doesn't start in November. The season doesn't start, but it starts August. That's when the season starts. So the season starts in August. Why are we not seeing the team start in August? And why are we not seeing the style of play in place from August? You look at south of the border, Chelsea, massive squad of 50 players or so. But Maresca's come in. He's put in a style of play. He's got them playing in a certain way. And I know they have players who are a hell of a lot better than anything we've got. They've got Cole Palmer, for example, who's just unbelievably talented. But he's got a style of play in place. He's got a way of playing in place. Now, is it that the players don't get his style of play? Is the player play his style? Is it the players aren't good enough? Or is it the players don't want to? Or is it that he genuinely doesn't? I don't know. I honestly don't know what the situation is. We've got here, Andy says in the live chat, he said he can't figure out the playing style. He says, Clement is clueless, we'll win 0 under him. He talks pish as well. Brian Smith says in the live chat, I totally agree with your defence back four. I just want to see us play some solidness. I want to see us, not have to worry about the right back slot and the fact that whoever's playing right wing and whoever's playing centrally, whoever's playing, in those roles doesn't have to constantly cover for one player and play with their style. That's what I want to see going forward from the club. I really do. And I just want to solidity. And the other argument kind of for me is, Casemiro is here on loan, right? He's here on loan with an option to buy. Well, play him. Why would you take a player on loan who you're not going to play? You're going to sit on the bench. It smacks of another Amad Diallo situation. And we've seen it look how good Amad is and has been for the last couple of seasons. So, I think there is a worry there for me. There is a real genuine worry there. And look, there is positives to take from Sunday's game. Huge positives to take from Sunday's game. I mean, positive number one for me is the defence in terms of the central defensive pairing of Proper and Souttar. I thought were very good. Proper is starting to settle in a lot more. He's starting to be a little bit of a leader. There's elements already you're seeing there from Proper where you're seeing him direct the play a little bit more. You're seeing him. There was a moment, I think it was the second half, where he's like, out, get out. And he's pulling them up. He's keeping that, come on, out. And he's trying to keep the defence in line. He's trying to keep that line. And that's what we need at the back, a leader, a real leader. And that's Proper starting to prove that. And I think, Goldson, yes, suffered a real fall off at the end of his career. Of course he did. But he was an excellent communicator, Connor Goldson. He was an excellent leader at the back. And when Goldson left, obviously he went that leadership and that concentration and that communication kind of went. But I think that getting used to his surroundings, getting used to playing Scottish football, getting used to playing for Rangers, getting used to the manager and his teammates, we're seeing a little bit more of that leadership element from Robin Proper. So for me, that is a real positive. I think John Souttar's been doing really, really well. I think John Souttar is another player that comes in for an awful lot of unfair criticism from the fans. I think he gets a lot of shit from people. I really do. And, he really is a player who does not get a fair crack. But, yes, he's got a mistake in him. I understand that, 100% that John Souttar has a mistake in him. I know John Souttar has a mistake in him. Okay, I've seen John Souttar make mistakes. But this is what I'd ask you, though, about John Souttar. If John Souttar didn't have a mistake in him, if John Souttar was as good as he is all the time and never makes a mistake, would he be playing for Rangers still? Would he still be in the SPL? Or would he have been bought by a club down south? I think there's a high chance that we wouldn't have John Souttar if he was perfect, if he didn't make a mistake. I think there's clubs down south that probably looked at John Souttar and thought he's a good defender. Yeah, you do that in the Premier League, you're going to get punished. You can get away with it in Scotland sometimes because the teams you're playing against are not that good. But when you play against top teams week in, week out, and you make that mistake, you're going to get hurt, you're going to get punished. So for me, there's got to be some element of that. So I think Proper and Souttar coming together are playing very well. Now, look, I heard the whole argument about, it wasn't a penalty. It wasn't a penalty. It was a penalty. I mean, I'll be honest with you, even taking my blue tinted goggles off for a minute, it was a penalty because if you watch, he puts his arm up. You just can't do that. And Clement can talk about, he brings his leg up, so he has to bring his arm up. No. Clement's talking out of his arse about that. He really genuinely is. I mean, as a player, and if you've played the game, if you've ever played the game, I know why Clement's doing it. He's standing up for his players, and I admire him for that. But if you've ever played the game of football, you will know that doing that, bringing your arm up, and moving your arm away from your body, the moment you do that, if the ball hits it, you're going to give away a penalty. It's a fact. If you've ever played the game, like I said, you will know that as the case. Andy McLean says, Rangers should be seeing teams often cruising by 60 minutes. Will we see this in October? I doubt it. Look, I agree. Walter Smith, said as much, didn't he? Graham Souness said as much. Rangers should be invincible. They really should. They should be a team that, when we're playing against the likes of Hibs and Hearts and St Johnstone and Dundee and Dundee United and Livy and Ross County and those crap teams in the league, we should be just smashing them. there shouldn't even be a game in that. And I know those teams come and they make it hard to play, but with the caliber of players we've got, and we have as much as we may criticise some of them, we have got some very talented players on this squad. Bayrami, Cortez when he's fit, Diamande, McCausland. There's some good players on this team. There's some creative players on this team. Tom Lawrence. There are players who can play well on this team. We should have enough to unlock the likes of St Johnstone, the likes of Hibs, the likes of Ross County, the likes, obviously, of Dundee and Dundee United. There shouldn't be a disability to be able to do that. So for me, these are games that we should be, yes, okay, when we come to play Celtic or Aberdeen, who are playing well this season, or we go to play in Europe, there will be a difference. Of course, there will be a difference. Geordie says here, starts to like the pairing of Prop and Suter, also Hiefte and Bayrami. Yeah, I mean, Hiefte and Bayrami. I thought Hiefte and Cortez formed a nice little pairing as well, Geordie, when Cortez was fit. So, yeah, absolutely. Good morning, Andrew. How you doing? Michael says, morning, Owen. Morning, and Michael. How you doing? Keep up the good work. We all have bad moments. No one is perfect. Very true. Don't we all know that? Yeah, I agree. But look, where were we? Positives from Sunday. I think we've talked about the negatives. We've talked about James Tavernier to death. We've talked about the midfield. We've talked about that. We've talked about, and I'm saving. I don't want to talk about Václav Černý now. I'll talk about Václav Černý tonight. What else was positive from Sunday? I thought Tom Lawrence did well. So I thought Tom Lawrence was very positive Sunday. I thought, Tom Lawrence is a player who's come in for a lot of criticism for his start for the season. I think, he's not played particularly well at times and has not looked particularly great at times. But I thought overall on Sunday, that he did okay. He did okay, and he played quite well. And the goal was absolutely brilliant. The goal was absolutely, that is a situation. The goal that he scored was good, and I thought that he did do quite well on Sunday. So that is another positive that came out of Sunday for me. I thought Bayrami coming on again and getting more minutes and played very well. Another positive from Sunday. So Jack Butland looks to be back to his best and back to form as well. So again, another positive from Sunday. There we go. Geordie says here, when do you think we will start to see Kelly play? I honestly think he's starting to think, what am I doing here? Do you mean Liam Kelly, mate? He won't play this season at all, mate. He ain't going to get a game because Jack Butland is the goalkeeper. He is the number one. And unless Jack Butland goes down injured or Jack Butland is sold in January, which I highly doubt will happen, Liam Kelly ain't getting a game, mate. I'm telling you now. But Clermont as a manager, and I think Butland as a keeper, don't like rotation in cup games, or don't like rotation of the keeper anyway. I think that Clermont is very much a manager who wants to keep his keeper on all the time, wants his keeper to start every game, play every game, whether it's the Europa League, the League Cup, the Scottish Cup, the League, whatever it is. I don't think Clermont is a kind of guy who's going to rest his keeper at any point. So I don't think Liam Kelly's ever going to get a look in, mate. I think he's going to be sat on the bench all season. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When that transfer was announced, when it was announced that Liam Kelly was coming to Rangers, I did have to say I found it very weird. I did find it really weird. I mean, Liam Kelly's captain of Motherwell and he's starting every single game. Yet he doesn't get... he then comes to a club where he knows he's going to be second fiddle, where he knows he's not going to get a game, where he knows he's not going to play. It was a very weird move for me. Maybe there's something behind the scenes that we don't know there. Maybe there's something, as regards to Liam's family situation or Liam's and Motherwell's relationship at the time. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, don't know. But Butland's the best keeper in Scotland. We know that Butland. I mean, you can hear the crap that comes out the other side of the city about Kasper Schmeichel and yada yada yada. But Butland's a better keeper than Kasper Schmeichel. I mean, it's not even a debate, is it? I mean, it's not even a discussion. But it's just it is a weird one. It is a weird one. John McLean says Kelly's a number two keeper. He is. But like I said, I just find it really weird that you would go from being a captain of a team and and starting every single week and never looking like you were going to get dropped to then go and sit on the bench somewhere. It doesn't really make any sense. As someone who played football, not to a high standard, I would never have gone and played for a team where I wouldn't have been guaranteed a start, or guaranteed at least a chance of starting. I mean, realistically, you look at it, and you look at where we are, and you look at the club, and you kind of think, well, Butland's outstanding. I mean, unless Liam Kelly kind of took a calculated gamble and thought, hey, do you know what? I reckon they're going to sell him. I reckon they're going to sell Jack Butland. And if I play my cards right, I can end up Rangers #1 here. I mean, that might have been a gamble that he wanted to take. I don't know. I don't know. It may well have been a gamble that he decided that he wanted. It could have been. I mean, we all take gambles in life, and maybe that was his. But it obviously wasn't a very sensible one, was it? So I'll be honest with you, I don't get that one, mate. It's a great question. It's a fantastic question, Geordie. Fantastic question there. Geordie says here as well, he says about that, only thing I can think is Kelly's being brought in to light the fire below Butland and keep him going. I mean, that is a possibility. I mean, I've talked, haven't I, a number of times about this two dogs, one bone philosophy that Mike Tomlin, who is the head coach of the got two dogs and one bone, the fittest dog will win the bone, won't he? But there'll be a first, and the two dogs will fight like hell for that bone, and iron sharpens iron. If you've got two players that are very, very good in a certain position, if they're fighting and battling, then they're going to push each other's standards up. So yeah, I mean, there is that as well, Geordie. I agree with that one, but it is a rather bizarre move for Liam Kelly on in terms of where we go from this. I just want to address one other thing. I also think as well from Sunday, another point from Sunday. I think the criticism that Hamza Igman's coming for is a little unfair as well. I think there's a bit of criticism coming for Hamza Igman. I think people. I mean, I've read some absolutely just ridiculous takes. Some ridiculous takes from some people on Hamza Igman. Some people writing him off. Some people calling him shit. Some people calling him rubbish. Some people saying that he's not up to leading the line, etc., etc. I mean, I despair. I despair with that. I mean, this is a kid. This is a kid who's still learning these trades, still learning the game. This is a kid who, has a future, has a real future. And yeah, he's not the same player as Dessers. He's not a target man. He's not an out-and-out 9, which Dessers I don't think is to some degree as well. But I think the criticism of Hamza is really, really unfair. Yeah, I think, that's, this is a lad who's still learning the game and is still getting to know his place in the game. And I think, to criticize him like that is just bang out of order. So I think the criticism that Hamza Igman's coming from some people has been absolutely bang out of order. Hamza will come good eventually. Hamza will come good. Hamza will be an outstanding player. I've got no doubts in my mind that is the case, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Of course it's going to take time. Dado says Sterling will move on in January if he can't get the right back position. I mean, you wouldn't blame him. You wouldn't blame Sterling. I think Sterling, for me, Dado, has become a bit of a victim of his own success. He really has. And he really has kind of, because he can play any position, it seems, wherever the manager asks him to play, he's asked him to, but he's asked him to play right wing. He's done it. He's asked him to play left wing. He's done it. He's asked him to play central defensive midfield. He's done it. He's asked him to play centre back. He's done it. He's played right back, left back. I mean, it's almost quicker with Dujon Sterling to, say, where can't he play? And he's kind of been the victim of his own success from that aspect, that he's kind of, because he's become so flexible and so utility, maybe he's seen as not actually having a position as such, and holding down a position will become harder for him because of the fact that he's seen as being so indispensable as being a player who can come off the bench, and if you've got an injury or a suspend or someone gets booked and you want to take them off, or someone's not playing well, we can stick Sterling on at right wing, we can stick Sterling on at left wing, we can stick Sterling on in midfield, we can stick Sterling on in central defence. He can do all those jobs, and maybe Clement's kind of saying, well, I don't want to pin him down to the right back slot, because if I do that, then I'll lose my backup central defensive midfielder, I lose my backup right winger, I lose my backup centre back, I lose a number of positions. I think for me, I really do, think that he has become become a bit of a kind of victim of his own flexibility. Really has. I think that is a worry. That is a real concern. What else have we got here? Geordie says Sterling could be gatekeeper at Ockenhauer, he'd still be unreal. He would. Someone said as well, didn't they? I think that, we're looking for a CEO. Could Sterling not be the CEO as well? He probably could, actually. Probably outstanding as a CEO. I want the best for my team. I was semi-professional right back, and I can see this. Dado, I agree with you, mate. That's all we all want. And look, you can come on and you can give people abuse. Like Ian Van Dahl called me a gobshite this morning because no doubt he's a Tab fanboy. You can come on and give people abuse and you can do whatever. But at the end of the day, I think we're all the same. We're all the same. We all just want the best for our team. We all just want Rangers back at the top of the Scottish game. We all want them putting Celtic back in their place. We all want, kind of the team, performing how they used to, being the team that we kind of all grew up. I mean, those of you over a certain age will remember the Souness era of the 80s. We'll remember the Walter Smith era, the Dick Advocaat era, the Big Eck era. We'll remember 9 in a row. We'll remember all those times, and we'll just want those times back. And I think, yes, the younger generation haven't seen that and are perhaps more tolerant of failure and perhaps more tolerant of, not being a team that wins every trophy every single season, and are perhaps a little bit more understanding of mediocre players like Tavernier and Dower and so on and so forth. But they didn't grow up in an era when this club had great players, and this team played good winning football. Not always the best football, but they played winning football. One Angry Norseman says, I've been a Rangers fan for 50 years and I hate Tav with a passion now. Look, I think the sad thing is that James Tavernier, don't get me wrong, has been a great servant for the club. Of course he has. His numbers are outstanding. His figures are outstanding. His goals, his assists, are outstanding. Yes, his trophy count is appalling, but he has been a great servant for the club, and he's been here through the bad times and the really bad times, and then the okay times. And he was here when we won 55, and we've got to be thankful for that. And I agree that, but as Batman said, wasn't it? I think it was Batman said, you can die a hero or you can live long enough to become the villain. And I think the thing with James Tavernier is, with a lot of the Rangers fan base now, is he's sort of showing that Batman's philosophy is correct. You can live long enough to be a villain, because he's becoming a bit of a villain. Jody says, we all knew Sterling had the passion for the club when he came out and said we played shit. I agree with that, mate. He was spot on. Years ago, players used to fight for a place no matter what. They didn't go away crying because they couldn't get a game. I agree, yeah, Michael, they did, didn't they? They used to fight. I think football was a very different world back then, and footballers were a very different bunch back then. I think, you've just got to look at the Gen Zs, haven't you? The self-entitled Gen Zs that are coming through these days. I think the youth of today are quite weak-minded, are very much, people who don't have a backbone anymore. Geordie says here in the live chat, one I heard the other day was the earth is covered in 71% water. The rest is covered by Conor Barron. Unreal. Yeah, absolutely, mate. I've got to say, one thing I want to talk about with that, actually, just that's a great point, that is, Geordie, and I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know if you've seen the abuse that Rangers fans and Conor Barron are getting online from Aberdeen fans, Hearts fans, Hibs fans, Celtic fans. Right, this is the abuse, right? Conor Barron is an average footballer who Rangers fans are all praising to the hilt because they're such a shit club. Well, number one, why have you got such an issue and an obsession that you're worried about who Rangers fans like as a player? I don't get that. I genuinely don't understand. Why are you so obsessed with that? You know what? I'll be honest with you guys. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't give a shit which Celtic players are the most popular, which players that the Celtic fans really like, or which players the Aberdeen fans really like, or which players the Hibs fans really like, or which fans the Hearts really like. Fair play to them. Look, if you're a Celtic fan and you love Callum McGregor, fair play to you, mate. Fair play to you. You love Callum McGregor. He's your player. Love him. If you're an Aberdeen fan and you love Leighton Clarkson, fair play to you. You love Leighton Clarkson. Fair play to you. Great. Well done, mate. Well done. If you're a Hibs fan and you love, I don't know who plays for them really, Martin Boyle, for example. Fair play to you, mate. Fair play to you. Love it. You love a player. But I'm not going to go on social media and I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, look at Celtic fans loving Callum McGregor, who's past it now and he's retired from Scottish football and he can't do it anymore. What a pathetic attitude. Pathetic. And then you got the Aberdeen fans coming out and going, oh, wait till he starts playing shit and the Rangers fans all turn on him. Oh, just talk about bitter. Talk about bitter. Why do you care anymore? He's not your player. He's not your player. Look, I don't care. Look, you know what? Let me give you this example, right? At the moment, Aberdeen fans love Jimmy Thielen, their manager, because he's won every game, right? They love him, right? Brilliant. Pleased for you. Happy for you. So happy for you that you love him, right? Right. Let's say he loses the next 6 games in a row and they fucking hate him after 6 games. They cannot stand him anymore. I don't care. I don't care. I couldn't give a monkeys. I genuinely could not care less if you hate him. If you love him, you hate him, don't care. Do what you want. You're an Aberdeen fan. Okay, you're a Celtic fan. You're a Hibs fan. You're a Hearts fan. You're a Dundee fan. A Dundee United fan. Love your players. Hate your players. Don't care. Right? Genuinely don't care. So why are you so obsessed with us? Why are you all so obsessed with us? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Dado says this. Dado says, I was heartbroken when we moved on Davy Cooper or Lee Wallace. Very good point, mate. Good point. They are obsessed. Always a sunny day, Buster. Spot on, mate. I'd be surprised if Barron isn't picked up by a team in England in the next 2 years. I agree, Geordie. I think there's a couple of players I would say in this team that 2 years, 18 months to 2 years down the line are going to be looking at moves to the English leagues. Connor Barron is one. I think Mohamed Diamande is another. I think Hiefte is another. I think in those 3 players, you've got potential to make a lot of money, an awful lot of money from those 3 players. Because I think they will be looked at in 18 months to 2 years' time. I think you will see the likes of an Aston Villa or a Brentford or a Brighton or a Spurs or a Newcastle or someone who's not one of the big 4. I don't think that Diamande or Barron or Hiefte will ever play for your Man Cities, your Arsenals, Liverpools, Chelsea. I think go to Chelsea actually. Manchester United of this world. I just can't see that happening. They shop in a different market. I mean, I heard a statistic the other day. I mean, you all know I love Mark Goldbridge. I was listening to him the other day, and I was just, what we talk about money being spent in Scotland, don't we? We talk about we spent 21 million, or we spent 14 million, or 16 million. Wow, we spent a lot of money this summer. Do you know in the 3 years? The 3 years that Eric Ten Hag has been at Manchester United, do you know how much money he has spent in 3 years on players? 616 million pounds. 616 million. And he's never even looked like winning the league once, having spent 616 million. That's fucking incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And I think it just shows, doesn't it, the gap between English football and Scottish football at the moment in terms of the money. I mean, when you can afford in 3 years to spend 600 million pounds on footballers, yet we're talking about, is 3 million too much? Is 4 million too much? It kind of puts it into perspective a little bit, doesn't it? Dado says here, look at what Alfredo Morelos, the abuse the guy got off other fans at Scottish clubs. Agreed. Yeah, he did get a whole load of abuse. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that players are not going to get abuse from fans when they go away, when they play other teams. Of course they are. And I think a lot of people have said, if you're getting abuse, you're doing something right because you're obviously a good player. Because opposition fans don't tend to abuse shit players. They don't tend to abuse players that don't hurt them. They don't tend to abuse players that don't cause them any problems. They do abuse players that play well against them and score goals against them or stop them from scoring goals. That's who they abuse. So I think, you can take it as kind of a backhanded compliment if you're getting shit off Celtic fans or Aberdeen fans or Hibs fans or Hearts fans or whoever. But the point I'm making kind of is here, Dado, why are they so obsessed with which players we like and which players we don't like? I don't get it. I just genuinely don't get it, mate. It is an absolutely ludicrous one for me. It really genuinely is. Right, guys, that is it for this morning. We'll be back this evening with the podcast live this evening. Please come and join us for that, for the 9 o'clock show. So please come and join us for the 9 o'clock show, guys. Also, we've got a video is dropping very soon as well, talking about Ridvan's potential return and what that could mean for Rangers and what options that could give Philippe Clement going forward. Go and check that out as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for interacting in the live chat. As always, guys, if you could smash the sub on the way out, drop me a comment, smash the like, would be unbelievably brilliant. But remember always, we are